Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Genoa City was stewing with pressure as Jack Abbott paced through the cavernous halls of the Abbott manse, his mind a storm of fury and unbelief, unfit to attune the shocking treason that had just been revealed. For times he'd trusted Billy, had considered him not only a family member but a confidant, a mate in navigating the unfaithful waters of both business and particular alliances. But the disclosure that Billy had been intimately undermining Jack's trust, making covert deals that compromised the Abbott heritage and placed the family fortune at threat, felt like a dagger to the heart. Each step he took echoed with the weight of treason, and every corner of the manse sounded to brute monuments of the fidelity he allowed was unbreakable. Jack's wrathfulness was further than just stewing, it was a raging conflagration, consuming the rational part of his mind, leaving only raw, undressed emotion. Meanwhile, news of the conflict had spread like campfire across Genoa City, amplified by the grim scrutiny of social media, and within hours Nick Newman had stepped into the storm, applying pitfalls that were as cutting as they were public. Kane Ashby, caught in the crossfire of family feud and commercial warfare, had set up himself the unwitting target of Nick's viral warning, and the footage of his battle circulated on every news feed and gossip channel, turning a private family extremity into a citywide spectacle. Jack's eyes burned with an admixture of hurt and resolve as he replayed the sequence of events in his mind, the subtle manipulations, the retired alliances, and the critical moments when Billy had chosen ambition over fidelity, each act like a slip-up in the wall of dishonesty that now separated them. The emotional weight was nearly unsupportable, knowing that every strategic move Jack had made, every calculated threat taken for the good of the company and family, had been undermined by the very person he trusted most. In the murk of the manse, Jack's inner circle watched anxiously, seeing the tempest that hovered not just particular connections but the stability of Jabot as a whole, apprehensive that one wrong move could escalate the feud beyond form. Indeed, as Jack plotted to contain his fury, he knew that public perception was now in willful force. Nick's trouble had gone viral, framing Kane as a target and casting mistrustfulness over the Abbott family's consanity, leaving no room for slyness or private resolution. The megacity's nobility and media interposers buzzed with enterprise, anatomizing every detail of the treason, assigning blame and prognosticating retribution, and Jack felt the crushing weight of both particular and public anticipation. Every commerce now carried a subtext, every regard and word measured for retired motives, and the manse that formerly felt like a sanctuary now sounded like a stage for political and emotional warfare. Memories of once palms and defeats intertwined with present anxieties, making Jack's response a complex admixture of calculated strategy and raw emotion. Meanwhile, the ripple goods of Billy's treason reached far beyond the family, impacting alliances, shaking investor confidence, and causing pious workers to question their positions and faithfulness, leaving Jack acutely apprehensive that the consequences of this business were as extensive as they were immediate. In quiet moments when the storm temporarily abated, Jack scuffled with clashing solicitations for vengeance, conciliation, and the preservation of the Abbott name, each option carrying its own pitfalls and moral dilemmas. The viral nature of Nick's trouble added urgency to every decision, forcing Jack to consider not just the immediate fallout but the long-term counter-accusations of public scrutiny, social media perception, and the grim commentary of Genoa City interposers who would magnify indeed the fewest misstep. The emotional risk was compounded by particular reflections on trust, fidelity, and the fragility of domestic bonds, forcing Jack to defy uncomfortable trueness about the people he'd formerly held closest. Kane, now thrust into the eye of the storm, endured a resemblant struggle, balancing professional scores with particular morality, doubtful how to navigate a geography where every action was interpreted, anatomized, and broadcast to a megacity that thrived on reproach. As Jack grappled with his coming way, strategic computations mingled with visceral responses, forming a complex cerebral cotillion between public image, commercial survival, and particular revenge. In his mind, every possible outgrowth played out like a chess match, each move fraught with implicit disaster and unintended consequences. Yet his heart refused to soften toward Billy, whose duplicity had sculpted deep crevices in the foundation of trust. Jack's inner conflict was imaged by the outside chaos of the megacity's social media channels, where every comment, post and participated clip of Nick's warning to Kane-fueled enterprise and debate, amplifying pressure and placing fresh pressure on all involved. The network of connections, gauging business rivals, family members, and musketeers, now recalled a web of implicit pitfalls, each thread carrying the threat of farther exposure or treason, and Jack had to navigate this geography with both caution and assertive resoluteness. Nights were insomniac, filled with plans of battle and careful observation of Billy's conduct, while days brought meetings with councils, commercial opinions, and constant monitoring of public perception, all of which counted heavily on Jack's formerly burdened psyche. The cerebral and emotional complexity of the situation strengthened as he considered the long-term impact on domestic bonds, professional character, and the Abbott heritage, realizing that some consequences were unrecoverable and some alliances might no way be restored. In this gauntlet of treason, public reproach, and viral conflict, Jack's character was tested beyond former measures, forcing him to attune wrathfulness, grief, strategy, and morality while maintaining the appearance of control, strength, and quality to the outside world. The collision of private pain with public spectacle created a narrative of grand proportions, one that intertwined particular treason with citywide conspiracy, leaving every character involved to navigate a maze of feelings, commitment, and consequences. Throughout the fire, Jack's determination to uphold the Abbott name disaccorded with his desire for particular justice, creating pressure that palpitated like a live line through every commerce and decision. Indeed, moments of soul-searching offered no solace, as recollections of once backstabbings and triumphs mingled with fears of unborn loss, leaving Jack in a state of perpetual alert and emotional turbulence. The viral rotation of Nick's trouble converted the particular into the performative, and every move by Jack, Billy, Kane, or any associated party was now an implicit caption, scanned and interpreted by a public empty for reproach. Yet amidst the fermentation, Jack's adaptability shone through, a testament to his enduring strength and rigidity, as he colluded a path forward that balanced retaliation with pragmatism, fidelity with exposure, and emotional catharsis with strategic foresight. The storm girding him was far from over. Swells of gossip, enterprise, and pressure continued to crash against the walls of both family and commercial life, leaving no respite and demanding constant mindfulness, while the cerebral pressure tested not just his judgment but his capacity for empathy, leadership, and moral clarity. Jack's internal harangue came a complex concession between spontaneous response and calculated foresight, each choice carrying the weight of both immediate and far-reaching consequences. The intricate cotillion of deception, treason, and viral exposure heightened the stakes, forcing Jack to remain watchful, strategic, and unyielding in the face of challenges that hovered to strike everything he'd worked to make. The interplay of particular emotion and public perception created a dramatic pressure that enveloped every character, from the betrayed to the betrayer, from the observer to the one thrust into unwanted limelight, as Genoa City came both stage and followership to a saga of fidelity lost, power queried, and reports tested. Within the gauntlet of this high-stakes drama, Jack's ultimate challenge was to navigate a path that saved quality, achieved justice, and eased damage to his heritage while admitting the profound emotional risk of treason and the intoxicating, occasionally destructive power of viral notoriety. His trip through this fermentation would not only define the immediate future of his connections and commercial trials but also serve as a profound disquisition of trust, adaptability, and the mortal capacity to endure, acclimatize, and eventually rise above deception and reproach, casting a story that would reverberate in Genoa City for months, maybe times, as a testament to the enduring pressure between family fidelity and individual ambition, between private pain and public scrutiny, and between the inexorable force of treason and the flexible spirit of those who refused to be undone by it. Jack's fury over Billy's treason was only the opening act of a far more complicated and emotionally charged saga, one that sounded to stretch infinitely across every corner of Genoa City and into the lives of everyone connected to the Abbott and Newman families. As Jack scuffled with the enormity of the business, he realized that Billy's conduct weren't insulated incidents but part of a pattern of subtle manipulations and strategic undermining, each precisely concealed beneath a veneer of congeniality and domestic fidelity. The disclosure forced Jack to review every commerce he'd had with Billy over the months, replaying exchanges in his mind with meticulous perfection, anatomizing each word and gesture for retired meaning, each now tainted with the possibility of dishonesty. The manse, once a place of retreat and domestic gathering, had converted into a theater of cerebral warfare, the walls acting to close in with every fleeting hour as Jack considered the counter-accusations of Billy's conduct. Beyond particular treason, there was the business angle, the deals that had been sabotaged, the investors who had been misled, the contracts now in jeopardy, and the character of Jabot hanging precariously in the balance. Jack's mind contended with strategies, importing retribution against restraint, public exposure against private battle, and considering the intricate dynamics of commercial law, media manipulation, and social influence that could either cover the Abbott heritage or destroy it entirely. Meanwhile, Kane, thrust reluctantly into the crosshairs of Nick's viral trouble, felt the stifling pressure of being a pawn in a larger game, torn between fidelity to Musketeers and family, professional integrity, and tone preservation. The footage of Nick's warning had spread across social media platforms with lightning speed, provoking a delirium of enterprise, opinion, and public scrutiny. Musketeers, business associates, and casual spectators likewise counted in on the situation, offering advice, judgment, and prognostications, frequently with little regard for delicacy, amplifying the stress and anxiety felt by those directly involved. Every announcement, every communication, and every fleeting comment carried the implicit to inflame the situation further, and Kane's anxiety grew with each new alert, the digital world performing as both a glass and an amplifier of real-world pressure. As Jack contemplated the compass of the treason, he also honored the subtle cerebral games at play. Billy hadn't only targeted his trust but had precisely manipulated others to ensure that Jack's response would be scanned, critiqued, and potentially misrepresented. The consummation fueled a sense of righteous wrathfulness, but also a caution born of times navigating commercial politics and family battles. Jack knew that acting precipitously could compound the problem, giving Billy an opening to further exploit sins, and that restraint, strategy, and timing would be pivotal to reclaiming both power and respect. In private moments, Jack's studies drifted to the moral confines of the situation. How far could one justifiably go to seek justice? How important could treason be forgiven, and at what cost? The answers were simple, and the weight of anticipation, from family, from workers, and from the public, more layers of complexity to every decision. The viral spread of Nick's warning had converted what might have been a contained family conflict into a public spectacle, where character, perception, and social influence were as important as factual deeds. Jack understood that the court of public opinion could be merciless, chastising miscalculations far more oppressively than they would any legal or business misstep, and that every word, expression, and gesture would be anatomized and interpreted, frequently inaptly, but with lasting consequences. As days passed, the situation escalated. Meetings with directors came tense, strategic alliances were tested, and indeed casual hassles carried in turnabout of dubitation. Workers rumored in hallways, assuming about commitment, motives, and the implicit fallout from the public reproach. The Abbott family felt the strain acutely, as each member was forced to navigate both particular grief and professional pressure contemporaneously. Meanwhile, Billy, completely apprehensive of the chaos he'd unleashed, oscillated between moments of calculated charm and subtle guard, trying to maintain connections while maneuvering through the consequences of his conduct. His mindfulness of Jack's rage, Kane's apprehension, and Nick's viral power kept him alert, always assaying how to cover himself while incubating his own intentions. The constant pressure left little room for relaxation, and indeed minor events, social gatherings, business lunches, and casual meetings, came arenas where alliances were tested, strategies meliorated, and power dynamics subtly shifted. The megacity itself sounded to palpitate with the drama, as gossip spread like campfire, public enterprise boosted, and social media observers deconstructed every possible angle of the treason, frequently distorting data but nevertheless impacting comprehensions. Jack, in particular, felt the double-wetted brand of visibility. While the public attention magnified the impact of treason and strengthened his resoluteness to act decisively, it also assessed limitations, constraining choices and forcing every step to be counted against implicit misapprehension. Emotional strain intertwined with professional computation, creating a nearly unsupportable pressure that forced Jack to defy not only Billy's treason but also his own vulnerabilities, past miscalculations, and the limits of control in a situation twisting far beyond what he'd anticipated. As he grappled with the complex moral and strategic questions before him, Jack also had to consider the well-being of those caught in the crossfire. Kane, who had come an unintentional symbol of the conflict, family members whose fidelity and trust had been tested, and workers whose careers and livelihoods depended on stability and confidence in leadership. The interplay of particular and professional consequences made every decision a high-stakes computation, and the long-term counteraccusations were as important as the immediate fallout. Meanwhile, the viral aspect of Nick's trouble continued to evolve. Memes, response vids, opinion pieces, and news stories spread across multiple platforms, turning private family drama into a public event consumed by observers with little understanding of the full environment. Each new surge of attention created fresh pressure on Jack, Kane, and the Abbott family, forcing rapid-fire responses, strategic posturing, and careful operation of public appearances. Jack's cerebral burden was compounded by a sense of responsibility he had to cover the Abbott heritage, safeguard family members, and maintain his own integrity, all while navigating a complex web of interpersonal dynamics, commercial politics, and public perception. In moments of reflection, Jack set up himself questioning the nature of trust, the fragility of fidelity, and the changeable consequences of treason, fating that the events unfolding weren't simply insulated incidents but an exemplification of mortal jest. In high-pressure surroundings where ambition, fear, and emotion collide, the megacity's elite watched with keen interest, gossip columns flourished, and indeed casual familiarity suspected on issues, creating an ecosystem where every decision had amplified significance. Jack's mind constantly anatomized implicit moves, anticipating responses, planning contingencies, and calculating the threat-price balance of every possible strategy. Kane, meanwhile, tried to attune particular ethics with survival in a situation where alignment with the wrong side could have disastrous particular and professional consequences. His anxiety was a reflection of the broader pressure, illustrating the connected nature of treason, fidelity, and social perception in the megacity's nobility circles. The emotional complexity extended to every secondary character, whose faithfulness, motives, and vulnerabilities were now intertwined with the central conflict. Musketeers, romantic mates, and business associates set up themselves forced into positions of judgment, intervention, or opportunism, farther complicating the social geography and adding the eventuality for unintended consequences. Jack's internal struggle came a study in cerebral abidance, balancing righteous wrathfulness with strategic tolerance, moral clarity with practical necessity, and particular grief with public responsibility. Each decision needed importing immediate emotional satisfaction against long-term strategic gain, considering both mortal psychology and the mechanics of influence in a largely connected social terrain. As weeks turned into months, the saga strengthened, encompassing slinging goods across business dealings, family dynamics, and social standing. Alliances were tested constantly, commitment shifted subtly, and the ever-present possibility of new backstabbings kept pressure high. The viral exposure of Nick's trouble had created a feedback circle. Public scrutiny fueled private anxiety, private conflicts generated more media interest, and every action was measured not only for its direct consequences, but also for how it would be perceived and interpreted by the larger public. In this terrain, Jack's leadership chops, emotional adaptability, and strategic wit were tested to the fullest, as every step, from particular battle to commercial maneuvering, needed both politic perfection and cerebral sapience. The narrative of treason, viral reproach, and emotional intensity continued to unfold, with Jack at the center, floundering to maintain control, assert authority, and navigate a geography where the interplay of fidelity, deception, and perception created a nearly unsupportable pressure that percolated every aspect of life in Genoa City. Through it all, the stakes remained high, the emotional and professional consequences immense, and the drama implacable, creating a story that explored the axes of mortal jest, the fragility of trust, and the inexorable impact of treason when amplified by social media, particular ambition, and the unyielding scrutiny of both family and megacity. As the pressure mounted, Jack began to realize that the goods of Billy's treason weren't confined to immediate business or family circles. They had strained into every aspect of life in Genoa City, impacting social dynamics, professional networks, and indeed the internal countries of those who had preliminarily felt untouchable in their positions. Kane, decreasingly burdened by the viral trouble and public attention, set up himself alternate guessing every decision, every alliance, every word spoken, knowing that a single misstep could be amplified beyond form. Meanwhile, Jack, refusing to show weakness, continued to map, precisely measuring his conduct to balance retaliation with preservation, apprehensive that the megacity's aspect was as hypercritical as it was universal. Indeed, casual relations, business lunches, charity events, and family gatherings came charged with implied pressure, each regard or gesture deconstructed for retired meaning. Trust, formerly a given among abettors and family, had come a rare commodity, forcing Jack to rebuild connections cautiously and check intentions relentlessly. The combination of particular treason, public spectacle, and viral exposure created a terrain where emotional fatigue and strategic computation was in constant pressure, leaving everyone involved acutely apprehensive that the consequences of a single decision could resonate indefinitely, shaping reports, careers, and family bonds in ways that no bone could completely prognosticate.